Hey, what's going on, guys? Felix here from Podcasting Secrets and the Shopify Masters Podcast. And today we'll talk to you about the importance of just pulling the trigger. So this is a big issue for me where I am so gun shy, so afraid to pull the trigger. And it exposed itself to me the other day when I was listening to a interview with Dame Dash, who was one of the co-founders of Rockefeller Records, along with Jay-Z. The company, the records label doesn't exist anymore. They had a huge falling out. And they were talking to Dame Dash about Jay-Z because they have a very strained relationship. And Jay-Z just had a new deal with the NFL to basically, I believe, put on the halftime shows and basically have a lot of his artists on his label, which is not part of Rockefeller Records anymore, and this label called Rock Nation, have him put on shows or halftime shows, basically some kind of collaboration there. And Dame Dash was basically saying, like, he doesn't, that kind of stuff doesn't interest him because he does not want to take a job. He sees this as Jay-Z taking a job, and instead what he wants to do is he wants to just do things like buy a team, or basically he, rather than take a job, he wants to just buy an asset that generates revenue. He wants to invest essentially and look at the terms of a deal and then see, okay, is this going to produce me cash flow? Over time, is it going to produce me cash flow? If it does, then it's worth investing. So he doesn't want to take a job, and rather he wants to put money and let his money work for him. So my immediate thought was, and here's where I differ from someone like Dame Dash and someone from a more successful entrepreneur. I started thinking to myself, like, oh, how does he know when to pull the trigger? How did he know when to invest? Where someone that's successful, as a super successful entrepreneur like Dame Dash, he probably says, let me look at the numbers and then objectively let me pull the trigger, rather than kind of mull it over in his head and sleep on it and try to think of reasons not to do it, which is what I do. So I recognize that my thought process is different than my kind of entrepreneurial role models, where they look at things objectively, and when it makes sense, they pull the trigger. So that's what I want to do better. I want to get better at pulling the trigger. So the question I'm going to start asking myself now is, first of all, am I taking too long to do something? Am I being hesitant to do something? And if I am, I got to ask myself, if I wait and spend more time doing this thing and preparing before I pull the trigger, will it actually result in any true benefit? And on top of that, if I pull the trigger today, am I doing something irreparable that I cannot backtrack from? Or can I pull the trigger today and kind of just iterate on top of my decision? The big example for this for me is with my course launches and my funnel launches, is I take a lot of time to wait and pull the trigger. So now I start questioning myself. This morning, or yesterday morning actually, I was working on writing a sales page, and I was like, man, I'm kind of constantly working over this and editing it and refining it. What if I just pull the trigger now and then see what happens and then work from there? So I'm going to try to get better at pulling the trigger by, again, asking myself those two questions. One is, by waiting, does it actually improve things dramatically? And maybe the more important question is, if I pull the trigger today and just release it and launch it and get going, will I do something that's irreparable? Will I hurt myself? Will I put myself in a situation that I cannot backtrack from? Or is it better to put myself out there and then see what the results are and then work from there? So if you're, kind of thinking about starting a podcast and you're hesitant to do it, or you're not sure where to begin, I encourage you just to pull the trigger. It becomes so much easier once you start pulling the trigger, because you can actually see what are the gaps, what's missing, what do you not know, and work from there. Because if you're just kind of mulling it over and thinking about starting a podcast, thinking about it, you're not going to get anywhere, because you don't know what you don't know. Only by actively pulling the trigger and getting yourself in the game will you actually realize and see where you are today, and see where you have to go, and see the steps that take you there. And if you particularly want to see the steps, the path towards that, that's what the Behind the Scenes podcast launch, a new program that I'm launching very, very soon, what it's all going to be about. You're going to be able to see me, who I already had a successful podcast, see me start from scratch, start a brand new podcast from scratch, and see everything behind the scenes of how I launch and grow it. If you want to learn more about that, just go to podcastingsecrets.co. Get the free book that's there. You'll be on my email list. You'll be notified when the Behind the Scenes podcast launch is available, and hopefully it helps you out and gets you to pull the trigger more often, especially if you want to start a podcast. Just get going, just get started, and join my email list if you want to learn how. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.